This book is pretty interesting because it does not, instead of giving you the Spanish alphabet in chapter 1, it gives it to you in an introduction. So turn to, I don't know, what is this room
XVI.
Yeah, XVI. Let's see what number is that.
What?
To see your Spanish alphabet. And it just goes over those 2 pages. It's just like here. It's kind of strange.
I'm still going.
Oh, there you go. So here and here. This is Spanish alphabet. We're not gonna like memorize it, okay? We're not gonna worry about that too much. But I just want to show you just so you kind of have an understanding. It does look very similar to the English alphabet. There are a couple of letters that we don't have. One of them, if you go down, you see A, B, C, D, what looks like ours, and then you have, then you can see the extra letters with A, B, C, Che. Why do they not have Che on here? Okay, for some reason this curriculum, it separates them over here. So normally, they just add it in with our alphabet where we would say A, B, C, they say A, B, C, Che, and you see this CH symbol because it's 2 letters that make 1 letter in the alphabet. And then you see the 2 L's. So for Spanish, the Spanish L is LA, but then right after L, for our L, they have something called A-yay. So they have LA, which is regular L, and A-yay is the double L's and makes a Y sound. It does not make an L sound. All right. Now, and then the last one is R. So they have a regular R, which is a flapped R, R, and then the trilled R, it just means you make your tongue go R, okay? R. Again, we're not super focused on speaking. I'm just introducing you to the sounds you're gonna hear me say. All right, so this is Spanish alphabet. It is pronounced different. Like they don't say A, B, C, they say A, B, C, Che, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, N, Y, O, P, Q, R, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. So even though they look the same, they're called different names in Spanish. The only other alphabet that we didn't talk about is Nye. Okay, so they have N, which is just the regular N, and then Nye, this this is called a tilde over it, and it's Nye. It has a Ny sound, so just regular N sound, it's Ny sound. Okay, all right. Now, we're going to go to chapter 1 and just get started. So chapter 1, we're going to be on page 4, and it gives you just a little picture. The pictures help a lot with some vocabulary. You have a complete vocabulary list at the end of your chapter. So that is on page... on page 28, that's a little bit easier, might be a little bit easier to reference when you're doing your work at home. So just make a note that if you don't see the vocabulary on this page, on the page that you're working, you can go to the back page. You also have like a little dictionary in the back. Now what we discovered last year was that there's some words sometimes they put in the exercises. Don't put in the dictionary in the back. I don't know why. It drives us crazy. Lucy's back there. She did this last year with me. Feel free to Google. Okay, you can use the internet, because they're gonna put words in here, and you're like, this isn't in my book. I don't know what to do. Google Spanish for whatever it is the word you're looking for. Use every resource that you can to get your work done. It's not cheating, it's doing your work, okay? All right, so our first section is just on expressions of courtesy and greeting, just those first initial things that you would say when you meet someone. These are the easiest kind of things to start off with, and this is what they start off with. So you see your vocabulary list over there, and then you can see pictures of each expression. So the first one on your list there is bienvenido, and you have bienvenido, and then you have a little slash and a ah. Anytime you see that, it's because it changes depending on who you're talking to. Yes?
I need a pencil.
I do. Oh. Are the pencils at home too?
I mean, there's like 2 right there.
Yep, I think I left the pencils in the paper packet that I left at home. Sorry, guys.
Hey, baby, came prepared.
Thank you. All right, you need a pencil? Anybody else?
Thank you.
You got one? Okay. I did plan on having pencils for y'all, but the paper and pencils got left in my house. Okay. So, anytime you see the O/I, it changes based on whether you're talking to a male or a female. So, if you're saying bienvenido, welcome to Colby, you say bienvenido. If you say it to Caitlin, you say bienvenida. Okay? So that's just what it's saying. And if you see the change, it's just Spanish is a very gendered language. So in English, we don't change words based on gender, based on who we're talking to, but in Spanish they do. They also all nouns have a gender. So a chair is either male or female. The door is either male or female. And the grammar has to match that. Okay, so like we have subject-verb agreement. They have gender and adjective agreement, noun and adjective agreement based on gender. Okay, so that'll just be something that we talk about as we go through the exercises. All right, so bienvenida is welcome. Buenas tardes, good afternoon. Buenas noches, good evening. ¿Cómo estás? How are you? ¿Cómo te llamas? What's your name? ¿Cuál es tu nombre? What's your name? All right, so when you learn a foreign language, it's important to note that there are no two languages that will just completely equal each other, okay? Language is an expression or a tool of culture. So a culture, a people group's language is going to reflect that people group's values, how they live, okay? It's how they express themselves in whatever situation they lived in. All right, my family and I were missionaries in the jungle, and one of the first things we had to do was learn the language of the people in the jungle. Now, do you think that they had a word for computer? No, because they didn't use a computer. They had, like, I don't even know how many, if we even learned them all, like at least 6 different words for leaf. And I'm not talking about like different types of leaves, like 6 different words for leaf, because they used leaves for different things. Like they used leaves for umbrellas, and they used leaves for their roof, and they used leaves for plates, and they used leaves for all these different things. So depending on what you're using the leaf for, it had a different word. It had a different name. Now we don't do that because it's just a leaf, right? Like we don't need a bunch of different words for leaf because we don't use it for a whole bunch of different things. So language is an expression of culture. So it's not going to be like this equal. In English we have this, in Spanish they have this. It's not like math. It's not 1 + 1 is going to equal the same thing, okay? So that's one of the most important things to know about language is you are not really trying to figure out, okay, I say this in English, how do I say this exact English phrase in Spanish? Your goal in learning a foreign language is to learn how those people in that language express an idea, okay? So right here, this is a very good example of it. ¿Cómo te llamas? What is your name? ¿Cuál es tu nombre? All right, so this phrase, if I had to bet, this phrase came out of English speakers going to a Spanish speaker saying, how do you say, what is your name? Okay, and they're like, well, I guess you would say, ¿Cuál es tu nombre? What is your name? All right, but that's not their normal way of asking someone's name. Their normal way of asking someone's name is, what are you called? This is what, and this is the you. And llamas is from a verb, llamar, which means to call. All right, what do they call you? What are you called? That is how they would typically ask someone their name. All right, so that's why you have two completely different phrases for what is your name. This is the literal, cuál is what, es is, tu is your, and this is name. This is literally what is your name. All right, there's going to be a lot of phrases in Spanish that are more like this, ¿Cómo te llamas? What are you called? Okay, that don't just equal one-to-one English. Okay, it's what are you called, because that's how they ask it. They don't say, what is your name? That's not natural to them. All right, so that's why we have two completely different phrases for what is your name, even though we would translate them both that way. Encantado and encantada, pleased to meet you. Fenomenal, great. Hola, hello, hopefully everybody knows that one. Igualmente, nice to meet you too. Más o menos, so. If someone asks you how you're doing, you could say más o menos. Me llamo, my name is. Mi nombre es, my name is. That's the answer to these questions. Again, they're different for the exact same reason. Mucho gusto, nice to meet you. Muy bien, gracias. Very well, thank you. Nada, nothing, not much. Que pasa? What's happening? These are all ways you can greet someone, and then that person can respond to you if you're in a conversation. Right below that, you see las despedidas. These are the farewells. Adios, chao, hasta luego, hasta mañana, and nos vemos. All right, and you can see there on your page, they give you little conversations, and then they tell you at the bottom what they're saying. So that's a good reference page for when you start doing some work. On the next page, so turn to page 6, it gives you some greetings and introducing people, formal versus informal. This is another key difference in Spanish. So in English, we pretty much greet people the same way. If you're talking to someone, a teacher or someone that you're not super familiar with, you might, say yes ma'am or yes sir or something like that. But that's kind of it. You might say Mrs. so-and-so or Miss so-and-so rather than just calling them by their first name. But other than that, we don't really have anything that distinguishes whether you're talking to your friend or your teacher. But in Spanish, they have some differences in grammar. So let's take, the easiest one is ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás is the main way to ask somebody, how are you doing? How are you? How are you doing? Okay. So this is the informal way to ask someone how they're doing. The formal way is to say, ¿Cómo está usted? So there's two different words for you in Spanish. One is formal and one is informal. Formal just means it's like your teacher or someone you don't know very well, someone that you just wouldn't, talk really familiar to. It's not your best friend, not someone that's your peer, okay? And the informal you is tú, and the formal you is usted. If it helps you to write it down, you can. It is in your book. You're going to take those books home with you. I'll send you the link to watch, if you need to. It's just up to you. If it helps you to write it down, you can write it down. If not, then you don't have to. Okay.
I'm on 2.
All right, tu informal, usted formal. Okay. Now up here, this is confusing because they don't have to put the to here because this ending on the verb, which we don't, it's not super important right now, shows you that it's the informal. The biggest thing that you need to remember that will help you when you're doing your work is this word right here. If you see usted, then you know it's formal. It's automatically formal. It's so if your work asks you how do you say, how are you formal, then you're just looking for that usted, making sure that that's in there. You can also look for this too. It's not always there, but the usted is usually always there. All right. And so you can see there's different questions they have. All right. Como se llama usted? Again, how do you, what are you called? They just put that usted on the end. ¿Cómo está usted? ¿De dónde es usted? Where are you from? Each one of those, they have that usted on the end. So right now, for our purposes, for the summer, if we're moving really fast, this is your clue right here. You're just looking for that usted, and that tells you it's formal. It's the formal you. And then you have some other phrases, como estás, qué tal, qué pasa. These are more informal greetings that you would say to your friends. Notice the only thing you have to worry about right here is that there's no usted. There's no usted, okay, it's informal. And then if you need to know the definition, then you can look it up on your vocabulary list. All right. A lot of times in the back, in that vocabulary, it will give you a little something like this, either INF or I or F, to tell you it's informal or formal. So that is all, that can also help too, if you need to know which one it is. All right, so let's see. One of the activities you're gonna do in your book is just to identify formal and informal. Those are listening activities. You're obviously not doing those. I'm trying to find the one that you're gonna do. So let's just see if we can do one together. Oh, okay, that's what it is. So you can see right there on page 7, activity 1.1, it says look back at the conversations on page 5. Indicate whether each of the people listed below is speaking formally or informally, and you just circle formal or informal. So number 1, you look, it says Miguel, so let's go to page 5. Let's find Miguel. Okay, they don't have Miguel listed. This is one of the great things about this. I think, yes, you have to look at the conversation because they don't put everybody's name on there. All right, so under Jose, I think Miguel's the one Jose is talking to because he says, Hola Miguel, ¿qué tal? And then Miguel says, bien y tú. So is this conversation formal or informal? Informal. Why? Right, the two. There's no usted. There's no usted. All right, so that's what you're looking for when you do this activity. This is going to be one of the ones you're going to do when you go home, this 1 through 5. So when you look at each conversation, your clue is going to look for this usted. If you don't see that, then it's informal. You just circle informal, okay? No, not in the book. You're going to do it on sheet paper. I'll explain all that when I give you the assignments. All right. So, I know it's fast. We're moving on. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about, all right, the next thing we're going to is page 10. These are just expressions of courtesy, ways to say please, thank you, that kind of thing. All right, so you can see there you have a little list of vocabulary, situation, and the expression that you use. So to request something, just to say please, you say por favor. To express thanks, gracias. To say you're welcome, de nada. Or you can say no hay de qué. Don't worry about that, just say de nada. To get by someone, like if you're gonna say excuse me, you say con permiso. To interrupt or get someone's attention, perdón or disculpe. All right, here's another example of the languages not being one-to-one. So we would say excuse me if you're gonna go by someone, but if I'm gonna interrupt your conversation, I would also say excuse me, right? Like we use that same phrase. In Spanish, two different phrases. Con permiso is to get by someone, and perdón or disculpe is to get someone's attention or if you have to interrupt a conversation. To ask someone's forgiveness, meaning to just say, I'm sorry. You can say lo siento or perdóneme or perdón or discúlpeme again. To congratulate someone, felicidades. To say bless you after a sneeze, salud. All right, and these are all just little expressions, good first kind of things to learn. If you were ever in a Spanish-speaking country, just those, first key things if you're just walking down the street and you need to know a couple things to say. So you'll see like the, another one of your activities will be what you see there on page 11. So they give you a little picture of something that's happening, and then they give you a word bank, all right? So on number 1, you kind of see, looks like this guy's looking at his phone and then bumped into the guy in the red shirt. So what would you say if you bumped into somebody? What would you need to say? B, good, right? Disculpeme, some sort of way to say you're sorry. So if you look at that and say, okay, if I bumped into someone on the street, I would need to say I'm sorry, all right? And then you can go to your little list here, okay? Where do I find I'm sorry? Or go to your vocabulary in the back. Where do I find I'm sorry? Okay? So I do not expect you to remember everything I'm talking about right now. I'm trying to help you to remember where to find the answers in your book, okay, as you're doing this work. All right, good job. Okay. Next page. Oh, it's gonna be fast. We're getting it done. We're getting Spanish 1 done in 3 weeks. Okay. All right, so the next page is just a list of vocabulary in school, kind of like the main words you would use for teachers and students and things like that. It's just building your vocabulary slowly around things that are common to you right now. All right, so you can see they give you pictures and the Spanish word, and then the English is right below it. Profesora or maestra is teacher. Alumno or estudiante is student. Alumna or estudiante is student. Notice that if you use the word alumno for student, it has gender. So either you have to say alumno for a boy student and alumna for a girl student. Or you can just use estudiante. That does not have gender. You can, if you want to write, you have to write student, estudiante. That one's a little bit easier to remember anyway because it sounds close to student. And you don't have to worry about the O or the A. Okay. Number 4, secretaria, director, is principal, compañeros de clase, that's your classmates. 7, you see amigas, that is for friends, and notice it says female friends. What would it be if it's male friends? Amigos, good. Amigo for one male friend, amigos for plural, okay, yeah. All right, so O is male or masculine, A is female or feminine. And those are just clues for you to understand what you're doing there. All right, next page. Okay, the next one, let's see. On page 15, It's just giving you a couple of different questions, okay, for describing people. And one of the things that this book does that I don't super love is that it introduces you to phrases and things without introducing you to the grammar, so that can make it a little bit tricky, but it's okay. We're just trying to kind of have an understanding of what's going on. So, what is on page 15, it's talking about describing people, and they're going to introduce several different concepts when you describe people. Cognates just means words that sound and look alike in English and Spanish, like the easy ones to get, right? Like no problemo, that's the easy one, okay? Problema, that's what a cognate is, something that's very similar in both languages. The verb ser, okay, ser just means to be. And Spanish verb conjugation is very different than English, and it can be a little bit complicated. We're not going to jump into that right now, but just think about, all you need to know right now is to think about, we change our verbs depending on the subject that we're using, right? Like I go to the store, she goes to the store. So we do it a little bit. Spanish, they do it in a different way, but we do it too. So it's just that concept. I go, she goes. Okay, we're just changing the verb just a little bit to agree with the subject, all right? So when you see this, ser is to be, the only reason it's teaching you this right now is because one of the forms of ser, es, is the word is. And I think we all know that is just a really important, very common word that we're going to use in pretty much any language. So that's why the book is talking about it right now. So that's really all you need to know for chapter 1 is this word right here, es, and that means is. All right. Okay. So, it's just, all it's trying to do is to get you to be able to ask some questions about people using the vocabulary that you have. So you can see what they ask some questions. ¿Cómo se llama la profesora? All right, they're just asking, what is the name of the professor? And then the answer is, se llama Señorita González. All right, and the other, I'm trying to think, if when they ask, it's introducing this question right here, ¿Cómo es? How is this person? It's not, this is very different from our how is, okay? This is asking you to describe the person, okay? If we say how is someone, we're saying like, how are they doing? That's como estás, or if you're asking about another person, como está, okay? But this how is asking to describe the person. What is their job? What are they like? Are they fun? Are they boring? Are they mean? All right, how is the person? Okay, so that's the main reason that they're introducing that to you right now. And you can see, let's see, I'm trying to think of a good example that tells us. Here, a good question with this is, that we haven't talked about yet, is de donde es? Where are you from? So what is your name? Where are you from? These are all really good first things you would ask when you meet someone. De donde es this person? La señora or whatever. Okay? And then to say where you're from, you say es de Estados Unidos, okay? The USA. So these are just common questions. I'm not sure. I see this all over this exercise, but I'm not sure if they put de donde es or de donde eres in your vocabulary, because it's one of the really fun things this book does. We all understand that. All right, so on the next page, it gives you some ways to answer this question right here. How is someone? It gives you some descriptions of the person. And the really great thing about these is these are your cognates. These are the words that you can probably figure out because they're so close to English. So this is page 16. It says los cognados. And again, these are the very fun, easy words. Activo, are they active? Atlético, are they athletic? Cómico, are they funny? Compasivo, are they nice, compassionate? Cruel, are they cruel? Okay. Difícil, are they difficult? Extrovertido, are they extroverted? Famoso, are they famous? Favorito, generoso, inteligente. All right, all these you can look at and figure out what they mean. Okay, but the main thing you need to know is, I think on your exercises, I don't know if we did that one or not. When you're describing someone, no, you don't even have to write any of these out. Okay. So some of these you do have to worry about the gender situation. Like you have to choose, if it ends in an O, if it's describing a female, then you have to choose the feminine with the A. But I'm looking here at your exercise and they don't even try to trick you with that yet, thankfully. They're just, you just pick one that fits. All right, so the two exercises that you'll do for this one is just on that page 16. The first one, you're just picking the word that doesn't belong. Again, this should be one of the easiest ones you have because the words look like what they mean. So number one, serio, introvertido, so serious, introverted, cómico, and tímido, timid. So you have serious, introverted, funny, and timid. Which word doesn't belong? Cómico, right. So when you do this, you're gonna do it on your sheet of paper. You would just write cómico. Like you don't have to write out the whole thing. You don't have to write any questions. You just write the answer. The next one, we're not gonna do that one because, see, this is one of the issues with this book. So like the next section, it gives you whole entire sentences. This is your very first day of Spanish. Like these are the kind of exercises you should be doing. One word. Language builds on itself, so you go from word level to phrase level to sentence level. This book loves to just throw sentences and paragraphs at you. So those, thankfully, because we have to cut out a lot being Spanish, maybe in summer school, we get to cut out the things that I think are ridiculous for Spanish 1. All right, the next one is a listening activity, and then we talk about ser, which is not really fun. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do is we have to skip 17 and then come back to it because the book does this in kind of a crazy order to me. So turn to page 18 and you're gonna look down here, this little box that says singular and plural. We're gonna talk about Spanish pronouns. Pronouns are just I, you, me, not me, I, you, she, he, it, okay, we, y'all, because we have to learn pronouns in order to use them, first of all, but also in order to conjugate verbs. I know you're probably like, this is a lot of information on day 1 of Spanish. Do not get freaked out, I promise. It will be fine, okay? This is why we're not having tests, because it's way too much information. We're just practicing, okay? All right, so Spanish pronouns. We always learn Spanish pronouns in this little chart because it's going to help you with your verb conjugation. There's a middle one that we don't learn because it's just in Spain. All right, these are our Spanish pronouns. Yo is I. Tu, we already talked about this, is you, but it's the informal you. Usted is you, formal. Él is he. Ella is she. Now on the other side, you have the plural forms of your pronouns. So, to make I plural sounds weird, right? But when you're having a conversation, if you say I go to the store, it's just you. But if you say my sister and I go to the store, what English pronoun would you use to replace that? We, right? So nosotros is just we. It's the plural I, me and someone else, okay? There is an informal you that only gets used in Spain. Most Spanish classes cut it out. We're for sure cutting it out since we don't have a lot of time. Ustedes is the only plural you that you need to know. So even though we use usted for formal in the singular, we use ustedes for all plural you. So anytime you need to use the phrase y'all, you all, y'all, you're going to use ustedes. All right, ellos is them, they, masculine. Let's just put male instead of right now masculine. Ellos is a group of boys. Ellas is a group of girls. All right. I, you, informal, you formal, he, she, we, y'all, and they. We just have two different theys because we have a group of boys and a group of girls. Anytime you have a mixed group, you use ellos, you use the masculine. Okay. All right, so these are important to note. Your book, I'm trying to think. I don't even think they give you just a pronouns list. So this might be a really good thing to have and keep in your notebook to remember, because they give you this list with the verb ser. That's why we have to go back, okay? But you need this for all verb conjugation. Also, you just need to know, like, what is the word I? What is the word you? So I don't know why they do it like this, but this is how they do it. All right. Now, when they, let's see, when they give you the verb ser, I guess, yeah, we'll just stay on page 18. We won't go back to page 17. All Spanish verbs are conjugated the same way. Okay, they have a root and an ending. Ser is weird because the root is just one letter. All right. Now, it's an irregular verb, so when we learn regular verbs, you're going to be like, well, that's so much easier compared to ser. Why they introduce you to ser on chapter 1, Spanish 1, I don't know, but that's what this book loves to do. All right, so when you conjugate ser, you're going to plug the form of the verb in with the pronoun that you use, okay? So that's why we want to keep this chart so we know what each pronoun is. But I'm going to write it again here so that we can conjugate ser. Again, this is just some introduction. When you do your work, you can reference your book and any notes you have here. Okay, so just like we talked about with English, it sounds really crazy and confusing. It's just the same thing. Where we would say, I go, she goes. All right, with Spanish, they changed the form for pretty much every pronoun. So the yo form is soy. Yo soy, tú eres, usted, él, ella, es, nosotros somos, and ustedes, ellos, ellas, son. All right, so all this is just forms of to be, like am, is, are, was, were, right? These are just those forms. So I am, yo soy. Tu eres, you are. Usted es, you are formal. Él es, he is. Ella es, she is. Nosotros somos, we are. Ustedes son, y'all are. Ellos son, they are. Ellas son, they are. Alright? It's a lot of words to just say I am, you are, he, she is. Okay? Notice though, so on page 18 it shows you each form of the verb that goes with it, but the nice thing is when you need a reference when you're doing your work, page 17 right here shows you what each one means. Okay, so see it says ser is the infinitive form, just means to be. Yo soy, I am, right? Tu eres, you are. Ella es, she is, and then is also going to be he is, there's that kind of thing. All right, I don't know why they wouldn't give you all of them. But this is going to be helpful right here on page 17 because it shows you just the definitions without having to think about which one goes with which and what, and by the time I do this, what does this even mean? That's really all you need to know is what each of these means. He is, she is, they are, I am, that kind of thing. That's the most important thing for you to come away with on this. All right, I think we are done. The rest is culture and your exercises.
No stopping the video.
Wait, just let me make sure. Yes, you can stop the video. All right, I'm gonna give you your assignment, but